evening and welcome to episode 23 of the Huddy Hui. We're here at the traditional, the 136 traditional between Wellington College and St Pat's Wellington here at Evans Bay Park. We're set for a thrilling game. We're going to show you some highlights later on, but our guest tonight on the Huddy Hui is Wellington centre midfielder Ranui Burchett, who brought up 40 games just recently and earned his blazer for Wellington. So have a listen to Ranui Burchett from the Wellington Axeman. Tonight's guest is the midfielder from Wellington Rugby Football Club. He brought up 50 games just recently, Ranui Burchett. Ranui, thank you for coming on the Huddy Hui tonight. Tell us about your 50th game and what that experience was like.
Oh, well, firstly, thanks for having me, Brad. It's a pleasure to be here. I actually think we give out blazers for 40 games, which is a little bit less, but the game was against Petone and it was not that great, actually. They scored, I think they were up maybe 3 or 4 tries in the first 10 minutes. And then we wrestled, they were up 33-0. But the best thing about it was we were down 33 points and then came back and the rest of the half, scored just before halftime and then scored just after halftime. So it was 33-12. We were working our way back into the game. And so that was awesome. And then we were defending them on our line for about 10 minutes. We held them out, which was really encouraging after we leaked 33 points in 10 minutes. Yes. We couldn't even hold them on halfway. And then we were holding them on our defensive line. And then we gave away a couple penalties in a row. And then I gave away a penalty and got carded. So they scored 3 more tries after that. And then I think we scored 1 more, and then that was the end of the game. So, yeah, up until getting carded, it was good. It was good until then, and it was good for patches. But, yeah, obviously could have gone better.
Well, of course, you gave a very memorable post-match speech at the Petone Rugby Club room. Certainly made the crowd quite excited there when you said that famous comment.
Yeah, it's always a bit easier on Old Timers Day because I suspect the crowd's a little bit inebriated. So my job's a little bit easier. But yeah, always a pleasure speaking on behalf of the Axeman. It's always a pleasure to be hosted by Petone. So good to pass those pleasantries.
Of course, the Wellington scrum that day against Petone was under real pressure, and in the last few weeks, you've recruited 2 props from Tawa, the Coburn brothers, and they've really made an impact at your scrum since coming to the club. Yeah,
man, those 2 guys are awesome scrummagers, awesome players, great blokes, and it's so good to have them. Actually, the week before they came, we lost both props to injury, one with a shoulder and one with broken ribs. And so they came in, they've got a really positive attitude, and ever since then, I don't think I've seen our scrum go backwards. Like, they're absolute units. Carry hard, work hard, scrum hard. It's been awesome having them, actually.
So the season so far for Wellington has been quite a difficult one. Of course, you had a heavy first loss up to Paniki in the first round, but the second round against Wainui, you almost won that game. Of course, you scored a thrilling try in that game, but the season, a few injuries, but you've managed to bring the Coburns in, but there's signs that Wellington is possibly a chance of winning possibly 1 or 2 games before the end of the first round.
Yeah, well, every week, the first couple of weeks, we were going forwards and then we're sort of middling, not really getting anywhere. Pornicky, we didn't play great. Next week against Wainui, we pulled things together really well. And then a couple of times we've less so. But then in the last 3 weeks or so, we've really been building every week, adding layers to our game each week. Boys gelling together, playing with some consistency and creating some real opportunities, like following our game plan, which has been great. And we've also played some really talented teams, like on the weekend against Huddle Boys Marist. There were some things when you're playing a team and you look at or a clearance kick where they kick for 40 meters and it goes out on the full when you're 5 meters on their line, you're like, well, that's actually just really good footy on their behalf. And so I actually think we'll be aiming for a huge win this weekend. First one, heard it here first.
Well, of course, you've got Johnsonville this Saturday at home. And, of course, Johnsonville lost over you by a very similar scoreline to yourself. What do you know about Johnsonville this year? And the dangers they pose for Wellington.
Every time we play Jayville, it's always a good game. I don't think that you can ever write off any team in Wellington rugby, because any team on their day can win. And that's certainly the attitude that we take in every Saturday. And that's the attitude we'll be taking in this weekend as well. Johnsonville have put together some really good performances, and they've had some really close losses to some top quality teams. About their team specifically, I don't know too many players in them, but every time I've played Jayville, which has been a few times, especially with the old Hudson Cup, it's been a tough matchup. Regardless of where they are on the table. So we know not to take them lightly this weekend, and we'll be giving them everything we got.
Now, the Wellington Club last year brought up 150 years, and unfortunately COVID got in the way and cancelled a few things. But the history of the Wellington Club is rather special. Second oldest club in Wellington. Is the Wellington Rugby Club doing any celebrations this year, or are they just simply just continuing on as a normal functioning club this year?
I think we're just continuing on as a normal functioning club. I see you got a great book there on your shelf.
I do, yes. So, Keith Quinn, he's well, Adam knows him very well from growing up as a young man, but Keith has written some fantastic rugby books. And this one here, Given the Max, is a fantastic piece of history, particularly of the club. And of course, you've got the club rooms there. It's like a museum at Wellington. It's got some fantastic jerseys up on display.
Yeah, it's awesome, mate. You can spend hours there just staring at the memorabilia up on the wall, which is really cool. I think it's just, I honestly wouldn't be able to tell you too much about the social events this year. I do know it's Old Timers Day this weekend, big day. It was Women in Rugby last weekend or the weekend before, so that was really cool too. Oh, it was the weekend before when we had the home game against Tawa. But yeah, so I think it's just full steam ahead. There's a lot of new events this year because there was a bit of a change in leadership at the top level that we don't have much to do with, but heaps more events on this year, which has been hard to keep up with, actually.
Now, of course, Ranui, in your early years, you're actually from down south from Canterbury. Tell us about your early years of playing rugby, what high school you went to, and of course, your studies afterwards, after college.
Yeah, so I went to Shirley Boys High School, which is in Christchurch and plays in the Press Cup. And I really started playing, I started playing rugby around then. I wasn't actually very successful at all. I was in the under 14 C team. But my dad was a rugby league player. And so taught me all the basics, how to float a pass over people, how to tackle low. And it wasn't until I was probably year 10 or year 11 that I actually started enjoying my rugby, because up until that, there's no weight grade down there. And I was playing in Division 1 in my very first year, and I was just getting absolutely smoked every week. And I was not enjoying it. But, you know, you're a kid and your parents take you along, so you keep turning up. And I didn't really know I wasn't enjoying it. I just thought that was rugby. And then year 11, our team actually got disbanded because there wasn't enough people playing. So that was, and then the second 15 team took me in, one of the coaches there. I just got to train with them, so that was pretty cool. And then in the next year I played second 15 and was quite successful playing second 15. I ended up learning quite a lot from that same coach. And then luckily enough, the next year to play first 15. And that was when I really started enjoying footy. After that, the earthquake hit, obviously, in Christchurch. And so that rugby season was delayed. And I didn't really know what club I was going to go to at that stage. And I hadn't even thought about playing rugby, really. And then one of the boys that I went to school with, his dad was coaching a semi-social team at Shirley Rugby. So I ended up going there, and I played a couple of years there. The next year they had a serious Colts team, so that was pretty cool. Canterbury Rugby really helped them out by sending in some talented players from Auckland to help bolster our squad. And that was pretty cool, but I was plagued with injuries. I took about 2 years off while I was studying. That was mostly to focus on my studies, but I was having issues with my shoulders. And then ended up going back to Shirley Rugby just before I finished my studies, and then moved up here. So yeah, moved out here for work when I finished studying law and commerce in Christchurch.
Now, of course, Ranui, you mentioned injuries just before. And of course, before we came on air, you talked about your latest injury, but in the last year or so, you've been plagued by injuries, and it's delayed your rugby playing career. So tell us about that.
Yeah, it's sort of funny. After I did my shoulder quite badly as a youth, like in my Colts days, that was my first serious injury. Before that, I hadn't had any, and so that was about 2-year return. So that was okay. And then I had no injuries for ages. Like I'd be able to play a game of footy, especially out here in Wellington. I would play and I wouldn't even be sore on Sunday. And I was going to the gym and I was like, man, this is mint. Rugby's awesome. And then one day, just at training, my foot got caught under someone when I was rolled out of a ruck, and literally the worst injury I've ever had. I was out for 1.5 years, and all I had was like a sore ankle, much the same as your injury that you were talking about before. And ever since I've come back from then, I've just been made an absolute class. So so broke my hand 2 weeks ago, normal tackle, but I was a little bit late, a little bit tired, and didn't tackle with proper technique, and that's what you get, isn't it?
So how long's the recovery for your broken hand?
Anywhere between 4 and 8 weeks, depending on how bad the break is, but it's coming right quickly now. So hopefully it's on the shorter side, and I'll be back for the end of the season, which I'm hoping for. That would be awesome.
And of course, you moved up to Wellington for work. Tell us about the job you're in at the moment.
Yeah. So when I studied law and commerce, and I wanted to get into either the Treaty of Waitangi area, criminal law, environmental law, or family law. And then I was presented with the opportunity up here to work and represent claimants in the Treaty of Waitangi against the Crown. So that was really cool. And then through that work, I did a lot of environmental stuff. And that was another area that I was interested in working in, and got the opportunity to apply at the Environmental Protection Authority, which is where I work now. So I've been there for the last 3 and a bit years. Which has been good. And I used to work actually with a Pornicky stalwart, Doug Jones. So
you're stuck, yep.
Yeah. Doug used to work at the EPA too, so that was pretty good. But yeah, I've been there for the last 3 years, and it's a government agency, and we regulate environmental stuff. So when people do bad stuff in the environment, we have people that go and tell them off, pretty much.
Oh, it's always good. Always look after Mother Nature. So, Ranui, what's the clear difference between playing rugby in Canterbury and here in Wellington? What's the different playing styles?
Everyone here is the same shape. Like you can tell squarely what position people play. Yeah. And well, this is when I was playing in Christchurch. You could see a lock. Particularly, there's a lot of tall, strong locks in Christchurch. Like the locking stock is very high, but here, like, you look at someone, you're not sure if they're a front rower or if they're a second five, because everyone's fast, everyone can step, everyone bunts. Like the running ability of people here in Wellington is more encouraged, and it's part of the game plan. Like when you run here, the aim of the game is to break the line, especially from coaches, whereas in Christchurch, the aim of the game is to recycle position. And it's not an issue when you go down to ground, and you don't always force the offload. Whereas here, you'll see people break the line on their 5-meter line, run 40 meters, and that's your exit play. It's just to run it out. You're like, sweet. But that's really the direction rugby is going, and you can see that with the All Blacks. They'll spread the ball wide on their baseline. And I imagine with the professionalism of rugby as well, that's happened more in Christchurch, where everyone is big and strong and fast. But yeah, because that was about 4 years ago when I was last playing there.
Yeah. So when you retire from your playing days, do you envisage to have a role in the game in the future?
Yeah, my retirement's probably not too far away, to be honest, Fred. But yeah, for sure. I wouldn't say that I've got a huge amount of knowledge or anything to give back, but as a player as well, I would say the same thing, but I always can give effort. So would be happy really doing anything I've given enough stick to refs over the years that have had to deal with me. So I would ref, but I'm not sure if it would be a passion. I would just do it as duty owed to rugby. And I'd be happy enough to coach as well, but I wouldn't say that I know enough to coach anyone. I can show you how to pass, but I can't pass very well. So
well, you weren't too bad of a player to referee back when I was refereeing, so you probably go well with the whistle. But Ranui, thank you very much for coming on the Huddy Hui tonight, and all the best with your recovery and old timers down Saturday.
Hey, cheers, brother. Hopefully I'll see you there at the club rooms, mate.
Hopefully. All good.
Yeah. All right.
And now, here are the highlights from Wellington College's stunning 31 points to 18 win over St Patrick's College Wellington in the 136 Traditional played at Evans Bay Park. Enjoy.
St Pat's Town. Here's a big charging run by Leota Johnson as the St Pat's Trail get animated with that big run. Of course, David Johnson and Dominic Leota Johnson. Cousins. Here's a big massive break! It's a big massive break by Lisa Siumaga. They approach the 10-metre line. St Pat's Town, hold on attack. Johnson reaching in. He finds Jordan Chapman. Chapman, second year in the first 15 here at St Pat's Town. St Pat's Town keeping it tight. Johnson out to Luwake. Luwake out to second, 5 Talia. It's been back. The only try in the traditional comes off some attacking play by St Pat's Town. Stanley Farr manages to knock it back. It's a rather high pass, but his long lanky arm managed to get it back. Sokawanga out to Stanley. Maiava of the break. He's been brought down by Faeli. They're a metre away from the try line. St Pat's Town having to defend for the first time inside their own 22. There's numbers here for Wellington College. And Wellington College reach out and score. And that is Caleb Stanley, who scores the first try for Wellington College. Scores a level, 5-5. Now it's a special day for Cam Burgess and Jeremiah Collins as they earn themselves their cap on the first 15. It's about 5 starts, 3 traditional, something like that. That was back when I was teaching here, 6 years ago. Burgess strikes, and the penalty is successful. So St Pat's Town back in the lead, 8 points to 7. Now today, Wellington College, St Pat's Town, are having a reunion of their 1996 first 15. It was the last time that St Pat's Town had the Grand Slam of traditionals. That's when they won every single traditional. And all the team are here. This play's back underway. Advantage has been played as Miller has the break. He's just short of the try line. Advantage being played. Sopawanga out to Waikiri Jones. Waikiri Jones bounces off one. He goes over and scores. Wellington College's second try. Wellington College 12-8. I wonder. Penalty from that pulling down of the ball before. Here's Luwaki. He charges forward. Wellington College wrap him up. Time up on the clock in the first half. Here's Siumaga Whangai. Close in the corner. Had St Pat's Town score. This Wellington College defence since the first minute has been impressive. Johnson out to Burgess. High pass out to Teo. Teo with the offload to Metric. Metric will score his second try. Right on half-time. A good start in the second half for Wellington College. St Pat's Town, I've had to watch their discipline. They were on a warning in the first half. inside their own 22. Here's Jones. Fieldy is successful. And Wellington College are ahead, 17 points to 15. Outside their own 22. It's been an impressive display by Wellington College in this traditional. Having to go through the regrading process, having not made the top 4 last year. But St. Pat's Town have managed to turn it over again. This defence from Wellington College is holding back the Catholics. Talia. That's a break! That's a break by Tuiga. He looks to offload it, but it's been knocked off by Waikili Jones, has it? Referee Van Berkel. It's coming back for an earlier infringement. Has to convert the try right on the far touchline here at Evans Bay Park against St. Bede's to draw the game 37-all. St. Pat's Town students have probably seen this on camera. Well, they like to put their 2 hands up for a symbol and they call that rocks up. Apparently it's to keep the pace quiet during the kick. Burgess, he kicks. It's got the distance, and it's over. St. Pat's Town with a boot of Cameron Burgess are in the lead by 1. 18 points to 17. The field metric tries to tackle it, but Solomon brushes us off. There goes Maiava. Well, George Teo tried to tackle, but Maiava brushed him off. So, Wellington College rushing off the defenders of St. Pat's Town. Solomon. Out to Sopuanga. Williams finds Lawrenson. And Lawrenson nearly gets into touch. And isn't successful. But what's happening here? Well, the assistant referee has not put his flag up. Caleb Stanley is saying he scored the try. Stanley, strong game in the hooker jersey today. 2 tries. And a good take yet again by Lawrence Tupai. Waikili Jones rushes off St. Pat's Town defender. Here's Josh Williams going down the touchline again. He could go in all the way here. Can he get it? No, he's just short of the try line. Wellington College looking to punish St. Pat's Town. Anderson reaches over. Anderson scores. He's had a real impact off the bench in the second half. Will Anderson. And Wellington College are on their way to breaking their duck. 29 points to 18. Wellington College scrum. Wellington referee's time. The Centennial Shield is going back to Wellington College. What will the score be? Solomon kicks it over the dead ball line. And that is full time. Wellington College break their duck. After 3 years, they win back the Centennial Shield. They defeat St. Pat's Town 31 points to 18 here at Evans Bay Park.